Your football Sunday has dwindled down to this. Just a bunch of busted bets and broken fantasy dreams. You need this, and we're here for you. Immediate reaction, big opinions, gang tackling. Be one with the channel. It's DA's Sunday Pig Pod. Oink, oink, suckers.
I am here with you, boys and girls. Oink, oink, suckers. It's just you and me tonight. Solo. Let's get intimate. Aiden Hatton, the Marquette Marvel executive producer of Watch DA Live, is in North Carolina for a wedding tonight. Hopefully, they did not bear witness to the Carolina Panthers' disgusting effort. And so once again, everybody, it's just you and me. We did this earlier in the summer, actually, when I went solo, when I pressed all the buttons, did all the stuff that needs to be stuffed, and we got it done. And so we'll do it again. Let's do it live. Coming up tonight here on the show, how about Charlie Weis scheduled to join us, the former New England Patriots offensive coordinator, winner of 3 Super Bowls under Bill Belichick as the OC, the first 3 of the Super Bowl titles, and winner of a 4th, under Bill Parcells back in 1990 with the Giants. He's going to join us after Drake Maye had his debut for the Patriots. So we'll talk about young QBs and have Charlie grade out what he saw from Maye and maybe ask him about some of the other guys like Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. The top 3 picks of the NFL draft all have now started and all have at times looked intermittently good or very good. So that's a good sign for all of those teams, those QBs. Also, tonight on the show, we'll break down everything from today's NFL action. And I've got some thoughts on ALCS, NLCS, now that tonight we begin the Final Four in Major League Baseball. And so my Mets, you can see the towel behind me, get going in a little over a half hour from now. And to suggest that I'm not nervous would be a lie. I am somewhat nervous, and I shouldn't be, because at this point in time, it should all be gravy, right? I mean, this is the last team of the National League playoffs. By Memorial Day, they were left for dead by everyone, including myself. They've somehow made it this far, and no matter what happens, it should just be a gravy. But it's not. Unfortunately, I want to keep telling myself that, but I still have a knot of nerves in my stomach. And so tonight, I'll give you some of my thoughts on everything at large over the course of the baseball postseason. And so all of that coming up tonight here on the show. Okay? All right. Okay, let's do this. And you can always send us your comments for a little Q&A feedback by hitting us up on the comment section. That's, as always, a great place to have your voice heard. So tell your friends that we do this each and every night. Okay? All right. Be one with the channel. Subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed. And then we can be doing this together alongside your interaction. All right? So let her rip, baby. Let her rip. I want to start with the Furious of 5, as always, here, because without Aiden, we can't do the Fitz magic. So let's just roll with the Furious 5, shall we? And for the Furious 5, I'm talking about Caleb Williams and what happened earlier this morning in London. I will readily admit that I thought it was a lot to throw him in day number 1 and expect the Bears to be a playoff caliber team, which is what, honestly, the expectations seem to be, at least in Chicago, that if we have the defense and we have the skill position guys and we've got some continuity at head coach, all we need now is the quarterback. And Caleb, you're drafted number 1 overall for that reason. Now go save us. And I hate putting that type of pressure on a young buck. I hate thrusting him in there and going, okay, you're the final piece of the puzzle. Now go do it. And the first 3 weeks of the season did not look good. And the first 3 weeks of the season, it looked like Caleb was out there too early. And it was a little bit too much. Speed was too fast. And I don't know. I didn't see anything, none of us did, that would make you believe, oh, this guy's got the goods. And the last 4 weeks, we have seen a turning of the corner by Caleb. He has now thrown for 300 yards or more in 3 of the last 4 weeks. And today was absolutely a sonic boom in London. That was a performance that shows elite quarterback play at a position that the Bears have rarely, if ever, had elite play at. He was patient. He understood what the options were in his route tree. He made some plays with his legs. And even when he did scramble, I thought it was out of necessity, not out of reaction or impatience. And when you have a young quarterback that can move as well as he does, and he's moving not because his first desperation move is, okay, I'm going to run. Instead, it's let me get out of the pocket, let me duck through this traffic, and let me try to make a play downfield or with my legs. I'm totally cool with that. That was a very impressive performance, an extremely impressive performance. And nothing I can say is going to gloss him any more than Bears fans, I'm sure, have already done today. But if we were waiting for Caleb to deliver, today was the official delivery. And if you are a Bears fan and you're saying, hey, we're not that far away if we get decent quarterback play, then today you saw more than decent quarterback play and a reason to dream. But somehow, some way, perhaps even more interesting than Caleb Williams' breakout play was the absolute quit shown by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So bad that even Doug Peterson, the head coach, said we are on a slippery slope. And Andre Sisco, safety on this team, on the Jaguars, said, quote, I saw a lot of quit out there. End of quote. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I mean, yeah, the Bears, they got something moving in the right direction right now. But the Jaguars should be in position to be the equivalent of the Chicago Bears. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have played in London before, every year, multiple times now. They understand the travel. They understand the situation. They understand the neutral site, bizarre atmosphere. That is not a team that should be caught off guard going to London. And today, they looked caught off guard. And when it got bad, it got really bad. And it's not like they've got quarterback questions. They just spent a ton of money on Trevor Lawrence. And I have been a Lawrence supporter. I've been a Trevor believer, and perhaps at times a Trevor apologist. No more. No more. If Caleb Williams can look like that in his first 2 months in his NFL career, why does Trevor Lawrence look completely beaten this far into his NFL career? Why does that look that way? I realize it's not all just on Lawrence. And I realize there's a lot of different wheels moving at a lot of different speeds in the NFL. But Trevor Lawrence looks beaten, as though when things get tough, he is not the guy that says, hold up, I'm here, and we will fix this. I am going to demand more. And that's an issue with Trevor Lawrence. But let me tell you this. For whatever Lawrence is lacking, Doug Peterson has a dead team walking on his hands. And remember how things ended in Philadelphia. That was a man that had previously won a Super Bowl, the first one ever in Eagles franchise history. He had had a statue outside of the link. This was a man that dialed up the Philly special. And somehow this guy lost that team within a few seasons. And then as he gets skirted out, he takes over Jacksonville, and we all say, okay, finally some stability for Trevor Lawrence. Finally an adult in the room after the Urban Meyer mess. Finally an offensive guy that can lend his expertise to Lawrence, and here we go. Hey, it's not like the Jaguars haven't tried to sign some free agents. It's not like the Jaguars are completely devoid of all talent. The Jaguars 2 years ago were in the postseason and launched an amazing comeback for the ages against the Chargers. It's not that long ago that Midway through last year, the Jaguars looked like by far the best team in their division. And here we are, and they have quit. And let's just put it out there. London is where coaches go to die. Last year, the Patriots were embarrassed in London, a lethargic effort. Upon the ride home, Robert Kraft decided, you know what, I've seen enough. Bill, we're not retaining him at the end of the year. Last week, the Jets had a lethargic effort. Rodgers throws the 3 picks. On the way back, Woody Johnson clearly decided, you know what, Robert Saleh's out of here. Doug Peterson is lucky they've got another week in London, because if he was flying back tonight and tomorrow, he might be let go by Tuesday. He might be let go by tomorrow afternoon. This team has quit. It is over for Doug Peterson. You cannot come back. When guys in the locker room are saying, I have seen a lot of quit in this team, and it's the Bears with a rookie quarterback that runs you out of the building in London where it's your de facto second home, come on now. If they were not playing next week in London, I bet your bottom dollar, Shad Khan will make a move this week. He is on borrowed time. Next up, speaking of bozos and dead men walking, Nick Sirianni, what are you doing? What are you doing? At the end of a game in which the Eagles struggled mightily to survive against the hapless Browns, Nick Sirianni is engaging with the fans. Nick Sirianni is barking at the fans. Nick Sirianni is engaging with the Boo Birds. Oh, my God. Now, here's the problem with this look, is that Sirianni thinks he's flexing. Yeah, you guys were booing me. Yeah, you were catcalling me. Yeah, well, you know what? We won, and now I'm going to bite back. Little does he know he looks anything but cool. He's thinking to himself, I showed them. You did? You beat the Browns. And it wasn't easy. You beat a team that has no quarterback. I promised my Browns fans that listen and watch this show, I was not going to go in on the Browns yet again, so I won't. But the point remains. The Eagles struggled to put away Cleveland. And here's Nick Sirianni taking a victory lap, yelling at fans. What are you doing? What do you think that looks like? It looks petty and childish and immature. Even if you are listening to all of it during the game and you want to say something afterwards, is this the game to say something? I mean, okay, if you ran up a 42-3 win, all right, if there was some dramatic comeback, all right, if you're really fired up because something thrilling happened, but this game? Also, by the way, it's mid-October. What are you going to do in November or December, or hopefully if you're playing in January? This is not the end game for the Eagles. The Eagles have to get to the playoffs and win playoff games. The Eagles have to get back to a Super Bowl and close the deal. The Eagles winning in mid-October over the Cleveland Browns, who have one win, that ain't the end of this train, Nick Sirianni. So, man, managers and coaches will say, you better not listen to what the guys in the stands say, or you'll soon become one of those guys. Sirianni's about this close from that. This close. And the worst thing is he thinks he looks cool. The worst thing is he thinks he's flexing. Yeah, man. Look at me now. How you like me now? You look like a clown. A complete and utter clown. Next up, that Lions victory was so wonderful and yet also so painful. The wonderful part, obviously, was just pouring it on the Cowboys. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys went from a team that would dominate the regular season and get big wins in the first couple of months of the season and then collapse in the playoffs. And now a team that can't even win the regular season games. In fact, they're getting shredded in the big ones. Remember how bad the defense looked early in the season with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Now we see them, obviously, without Micah and company, and they completely get ripped apart. But on top of that, it's a Lions team that knows our destination should be the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, where the Cowboys are just acting like that's the goal, but ultimately even they know it's not. And that's the funny thing about the Cowboys. When I make fun of the Cowboys on social media or I make fun of the Cowboys on my show on Sirius XM weekday mornings, I get a lot of Cowboys fans that might say, hey, you know what, DA? You could drop it. We know you don't like them. You go overboard, yada, yada, yada. Why do you take such shots? Why do you take such glee at the Cowboys disaster? And here is why. Is because once upon a time, the Cowboys, whether it was Hollywood Henderson or the 70s bunch, man, they could taunt you. They could kick you when you're down. They can dance circles around you, but at least they were good. In the 1990s, when Michael Irvin and company are dancing circles around you and they're dancing in the end zone and they're hooting and hollering on the sideline, at least they're good. For the Cowboys of recent vintage, they want to be those guys, but they're not very good. And so it's such a paper champion. It's such a bunch of empty bullies. And all these guys want their payday and they want their podcast and they want the star on their helmet and they want to be a Cowboy. But ultimately, it's always so hollow. And today was a great example of it. I mean, the Lions went in there and pounded, and didn't let up. And they just kept it going. Poured it on. And the Cowboys had nothing to say. And this game was in Arlington, Texas. Imagine what it would have been like if it was in Detroit and the delirium inside Ford Field. That was a humiliation of epic proportions, of absolutely epic proportions. And the Cowboys could just stand there and watch as they got their asses kicked sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone. It was, in many ways, the perfect comeuppance. Cowboys, the players, just shut up. Just shut up. You're nowhere close to talking about Super Bowls. Don't talk about the playoffs. Don't talk about what it's going to look like when we're fully healthy or we finally get clicking or whatever. We don't want to hear it anymore. And Jerry, we certainly don't want to hear it from you. After a display like that, you make the argument why you bring back Mike McCarthy and then have the gall to say we're all in. You brought back a guy that had already lost multiple times in big spots, already saw what they couldn't be under McCarthy. And then you have the gall to come back and say we're all in and not go all in during the offseason and not go all in for free agents like Derrick Henry and not really go all in on changing the culture of this team. Well, you know what? You get what you signed up for. And this is what you signed up for. Getting your tuchuses kicked all around your home stadium. To the Lions out there, chef's kiss. Well done. America thanks you. Now, the Aiden Hutchinson thing. Gruesome, brutal, sickening, disheartening. Burkhart is calling that game and is showing, Fox is showing the replays, and he's not seeing, I think, what a lot of us had seen. When you saw Aiden flip around on the ground and his leg was wobbling to the side, he said, that's a broken leg. That's not an ACL tear. That's not a knee thing. That's when we've seen ankle shattered, feet broken, or legs broken. And when you watch the replay, him slamming his leg into another player's leg, and you could just see that point of impact before he even gets on the ground is when he's already wincing in pain. He's on the ground, taking the gloves off, holding his knee. You know this is really bad. Can the Lions get to where the Lions want to get to, winning a Super Bowl without Aiden Hutchinson? I don't know. Hutchinson has been, since the time he's walked into the league, A, the perfect pass rusher, B, the perfect Lion. He has encapsulated, embodied all of the things that Dan Campbell wants his team to be. About team, not about his own personal stats, about W's, about toughness, about coming to work every single day and giving your absolute max effort and knowing that the guy next to you is going to do the same exact thing. Aiden Hutchinson has been the perfect Lion. Can you get to where you want to get as a Lions fan or as a Lions player, the Lions organization, without Aiden Hutchinson, which is getting to a Super Bowl? I'd like to tell you yes, because there's so much talent everywhere else on the field. But the answer is I don't know, because he is such a spiritual center. He is such a emblem of what the team needs to be to win big, of what Dan Campbell wants them to be and needs them to be to get to a Super Bowl. The answer is I don't know. And do we know the timeline for a recovery, the surgery timeline, the ins and the outs? Of course not. Not yet. Maybe by Monday we'll have that. But it is heartbreaking because the Lions have everything needed to win a Super Bowl. Everything. Except they may have just lost one of the most important things that they had. Next up, Drake Maye's debut. Look, that's a passing grade. And I think if you've watched me on this show long enough, if you've listened to me throughout the years at any one of my radio stops, the last 11 years at CBS Sports Radio, the last year plus on Sirius XM, I try to parrot this. I try to echo this routinely. I don't mind being wrong because it means sports is still unpredictable. And that's why we love it. I did not think it was smart to start Drake Maye today at all. I didn't like the idea. I didn't like the concept behind it. I'll tell you why. The decision was made before the season by the New England Patriots not to start Drake Maye because the team around him wasn't ready. That this was a franchise that didn't have the proper support system around Drake Maye. It didn't have a great offensive line. It didn't have great offensive weapons to support him. It had a first-year head coach. And what the Patriots did not want to do is put too much at the feet of a rookie quarterback to save the day. And I said, after 5 weeks, what has changed? The answer is nothing. In fact, things have gotten worse. Injuries across the offensive line. The line has looked even worse than we thought in training camp of the preseason. Nobody has stepped up. Ramondre Stevenson wasn't in the game. And so it all looked like an act of desperation from Jerod Mayo and the organization. I will tell you, I also have some personal experience with the organization. I worked at 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, the powerhouse power broker of sports talk in Boston. We were, and still they are, the flagship home of the Patriots. I did the night show in Boston, 6 to 11 each night. And a couple of times, I heard from the front office off air. Either when I went to the ballpark, I went to the stadium to do interviews, was around the facility, or during commercial breaks, my producer would hand me the phone and say, Jonathan Kraft is on hold for you. He wants to clarify something that you said. So I know how image conscious the Krafts are. I know how delicate they realize, how tenuous they realize their hold on the sports fan base is at this point in time. Patriots fans have been used to 20 years of wake me up in the AFC Championship game. We stack division titles. We have great quarterback play. And in Bill, we trust. And that's all been ripped away. There's a new head coach. There's no certainty at quarterback. It's a bad roster. And it's wake me up in April for the draft. And so you stop having guaranteed sellouts. All you hear on sports talk radio is negativity. You start hearing questions about your hirings. And now you go, we're grasping for something positive, and you thrust in there the hope, Drake Maye. So I didn't like any of that. I don't like running an organization based on fear of negative. I do not like handling my business on this show, on my morning show. I don't like football teams, sports teams worrying about negativity. What if I say something or do something that they don't like? I believe you go into every day with a conviction and you say, this is what I'm going to do. And it's strategic and I believe in it. And there's a reason for it. And you let her rip and you do not back off because you're worried about negativity. You can back off because the results aren't there, but you don't back off because you're worried about negativity. And I felt like going into this, that's what they were worried about. But I got to give the Patriots credit because perhaps they just saw that Drake Maye was ready. Because compared to what Jacoby Brissett has put out there the first month and a half of the season, that was a completely different offense. Maye had a couple of turnovers. The one that bounced a million times in the air can't really be held against him. He wasn't perfect. A couple of picks, a fumble. But man, some of the throws he made, including the early one to Butte, was an absolute beauty. And that is not something we've seen from Jacoby over the course of the season. And so Maye passed the test, my estimation, with flying colors. Keep the comments coming. We love seeing you guys. Remember to subscribe to the channel. We do this each and every Sunday night, starting at 7 o'clock Eastern time, although tonight was a 7:30 Eastern kick for us. Send the comments, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends. This is how we do. And remember, there's videos each and every day throughout the week for you guys to get caught up on from this show or my deep dives or interviews. Check it out all across the channel. Spend some time there. Listen, watch, enjoy yourself. That was my take on Drake Maye, but it's far more important to get our next guest take on Drake Maye. Our next guest has 4 Super Bowl rings. Count them, 4. He was under Bill Parcells back with the Giants in 1990. He was under Bill Belichick as the offensive coordinator with Tom Brady with the first 3 Super Bowl victories of the dynasty. He's been the head coach in college football as well, of Notre Dame, of Kansas. He has run the offense in Florida. He knows young quarterbacks, and he knows the Patriots very well as well. Joining us here on the show is Charlie Weis, dropping on by Watch DA Live. Charlie, how we doing?
Oh, I'm just wonderful. I'm just wonderful. Getting ready to watch a little Sunday night football. You know, I get a little peace and quiet. My wife and all our dogs are settled down for the evening, so I'm good to go.
Okay. Sorry that I'm breaking up your peace and quiet. Hopefully I'm not ruining that too much.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right. I appreciate that, Charlie. Okay. So just give me your early thoughts on how you thought Drake Maye performed in his debut.
Well, I mean, you have to say that he did enough in this game to be encouraged. I mean, you would not be discouraged by that effort. I mean, each one of these rookie quarterbacks has different situations. They're going into a team. First, what other quarterbacks are on the roster? Second, who's the offensive line? Okay, who are the skill guys? And then who's the guy who's putting the offense together? So you have to take all those elements. And let's face it, the Patriots right now, and this, I love the Patriots, but let's face it, right now, their offensive line isn't very good, and their skill players leave a lot to be desired. So anyone coming in is already fighting, fighting an uphill battle. But I thought he did enough things in the game. I mean, let's face it, they were relatively conservative with him, which, that's the route to take. But their team, the surrounding team, isn't good enough to carry him right now. And the fact that he threw 3 touchdown passes in his first effort out there, gives you a reason to be optimistic.
I thought that it was the wrong spot to begin him as a starting quarterback because of all the things you mentioned, lack of offensive line, lack of skill position guys, lack of talent around him. I thought this was a losing proposition. It was too risky. But he paid off dividends today. What did you think when you heard the decision they were starting him earlier in the week?
Well, let's face it. Right now, with that team, they're better off with Jacoby in there than Drake Maye. With the team that they currently have. But let's face it, when you start off 1-4, 1-4, 1-5, and it already the writing's on the wall about whether or not you're going to be a playoff caliber team or not. You drafted him the 3rd pick in the draft for a reason. So you're going to have to play him. There's not really a perfect time. You're going to wait for a team that has a crummy defense. Is that what you're going to wait for? And figure, okay, that gives them the best chance of being successful. I think what the Patriots did, and I would have kept Jacoby in there too, but that's not the point. They didn't. I think what the Patriots did when they saw, hey, look it, we're not scoring enough points to win games. Jacoby is a very good game manager and a great leader for our team, but this guy's got an extra element that he brings to the game. Although he's inexperienced, his athleticism brings more opportunities. Like today in the game, multiple times in the game, he made plays with his feet. And when your offensive line isn't really good, and you got guys who aren't getting open a lot of times on your pass routes, a lot of time that leaves the quarterback with 2 alternatives. throw the ball away or use his athleticism to get out of trouble. And he did that several times today. And that is a definite bonus. That's a definite plus.
Do you think part of this reason was worry about losing a locker room if you're Gerard Mayo? In other words, the guys know there might be a better option at quarterback, but they're watching him just take a seat at the sideline. You can worry about maybe the season getting too sideways on you, so you have to put the kid in because it gives them a jolt?
No, I think it's more that they saw the writing on the wall where the season's heading. And when you start off a year, you don't know how your season's going to go. I mean, look at the Washington Commanders. Would you say they're a contender right now?
Absolutely.
I mean, they're a contender. Okay, now going into this season, even though I love Jaden Daniels, going into this season, no one was really expecting the Washington Commanders to be contenders. I mean, I think they're contenders in the NFC East. I really do. I think they're contenders. So I think that in the Patriots case, they saw, okay, this isn't going very well. I mean, what can we do? Well, you can't fire all the players. You can't fire all the coaches. So, but one thing you can do is you drafted this kid with the third pick in the entire draft for a reason. You could put him in there and hope that it gives you a spark. And one big reason why this could be a benefit, not a detriment, is because Jacoby is such a great team guy. A lot of quarterbacks would be stewing in this situation right there. That's not Jacoby. I've known Jacoby since he was a junior in high school. That's not who he is. And that's to the Patriots' benefit.
What is your take philosophically on starting a young quarterback? My feeling has always been be patient. Don't be impatient. Let them sit. The greatest of all time, Tom Brady. Also, a guy like Joe Montana, Patrick Mahomes. All of those guys sat their rookie years and watched. Except now we're seeing these young guys, Caleb, Jaden, and now May, perform really well really early. Did everything change in football to where now these guys are more ready? Or is this just an anomaly?
I think the ideal situation for people watching, they might not know all those scenarios that you talked about. They might not talk about Montana's situation or Brady's situation. So let's just talk about Patrick Mahomes. He gets drafted by the Chiefs, and he gets to play behind a seasoned pro like Alex Smith. So he sits for an entire year. He plays the last game of the year. That's the only time he played the whole year. Okay, he plays the last game of the year, but he's got to sit behind Alex Smith and see the pro game and how a pro's pro approaches the game. And Alex Smith was a good player. And at the end of the year, Andy made the decision, okay, Mahomes is ready to be our guy. Let's trade Alex and get some draft choices for him, and then we'll move forward. That, I believe, is the ideal situation. Letting a player sit behind a seasoned pro that can win for you. Now, tell me, who was that seasoned pro in Chicago? Tell me, who was that seasoned pro in Washington? Tell me, who is that seasoned pro in Denver? That's the reason why those guys are playing. Now, you don't see the same thing with Michael Penix because they have a seasoned pro down there in Atlanta. So he actually is reaping the benefits that all those other guys aren't having, but he gets to watch the game and learn the game from the preparation of a seasoned pro. So when you don't have a seasoned pro to learn from, then you put them in there and you say, roll with the punches.
I know it's a totally different situation than you guys dealt with in 2000 with Tom Brady, because Brady was a 6th-round draft pick, not number 1, number 2, or number 3 overall. But had Brady started from day one for you guys in 2000 as a rookie, do you think he would have ultimately had the same career?
Well, we play football differently in New England than a lot of people do. We play complementary football, and you watch the games today. I mean, you question whether or not these teams are on the same page with how they're trying to win every week. You notice the Kansas City Chiefs right now, they win a lot of games because of their defense, not because of how many points they score on offense.
Right.
But so we would take the players we have and say, okay, how do we win this week's game? And in our case, when Tommy first started playing, we were playing to the strength of our team, which was our defense. Play ball control, run the ball, play action pass, empty quick passes. That's how we started in the league. And as he grew and got better and better, we did more and more. And I think that complementary football has almost become taboo. We don't even talk about it anymore. But I think that we would have, whenever he went in, that's what we would have done. Now, when he came in his first year, he wasn't a backup quarterback. He wasn't the backup to the backup quarterback. He was our fourth quarterback his first year there. And then the second year, the year that he ends up playing and winning the Super Bowl, it's a battle for the backup quarterback with him and Damon Ewart. It was a coin flip. It was that close. Neither one of them were close to Bledsoe. I mean, Bledsoe was clearly the starter. People say, well, it was a question about whether or not they were going to start him. That's not true. I mean, Bledsoe was the starter. He got hurt. Tommy went in, and then he was playing too well. By the time Drew was able to come back in, Tommy was playing too well to pull him.
It's interesting. Drew Bledsoe has, I think, handled the way their two careers diverted at that point in time, the Mo Lewis hit, really well. It does not strike me that there's a lot of resentment. It feels like he's very supportive of Tom, and it feels like he's very comfortable in the role that he ended up in.
On the surface, that would be true. But Drew is a competitor. You don't think that eats at him every single day? It does, in case you're wondering. It does. And it would with anybody else, too. Okay.
Well, yeah. So
that's right.
Go ahead.
He's done everything the right way. He's been a pro. But every pro athlete wants to play, especially when they think that they lost a position because they got hurt. They want to play. So even though he's handled it the right way, he probably hates Belichick, hates me, because we were the ones that, kept Tommy in and didn't pull the trigger and put him in there.
Well, I guess, yeah. So my question was going to be, at the time when he finally was healthy and you guys had a decision to make, behind the scenes, was he making things difficult? Was he bristling at the idea that he wasn't coming back?
No, he was very quiet. Very quiet.
Okay.
Okay.
I can sense the sarcasm.
He was very quiet. Because he was bitter. But so when you're bitter, you do one of two things. You either speak it out loud, or you keep it in. And he did a very good job of keeping it in.
Are you serious, or are you being sarcastic here?
I'm dead serious. He did a very good job.
Okay. And
do you think he didn't want to play?
I think he wanted to play, as you said. I think he said the right things, but I'm thinking behind the scenes, he must have been a real, burr in your side.
No, he was just quiet. He obviously wasn't real happy with us, but it wasn't like he said anything. I mean, I remember he made the one quote, which, being from New Jersey and liking sarcasm, he made one quote to me one time about, I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to compete for my job, which I found that very witty. I remember that, but it was what it was, and it all worked out for our team, and it didn't work out for him personally, but it's a team sport, and it turned out we made the best decision because it ended up leading to championships.
Did both you and Bill have the same amount of confidence that you had to stay with Tom even when Drew was healthy, or did one of you have more confidence and the other one have a little bit of a question mark?
I think it was a very short conversation. There was no disagreement. None. Now remember, Bill, it's Bill's the boss. Bill gets to make the call. I can give my input, but Bill makes the call. So let me not act like I'm the truth slayer. Also, he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think Brady." And he goes, "I 100% agree," and that was it. It wasn't a long conversation.
Yeah.
It wasn't a long conversation.
It's so interesting because, I mean, you look at Tom and you guys put him in such a perfect situation. The defense was great. It was a playoff caliber roster, obviously. You helped tailor an offense that he could manage. You had a really strong run game, and he had veteran coaches around him. Yourself, Romeo on defense, Bill, who had previous stop in the NFL and also as a defensive coordinator had won Super Bowls. So he was not going into a place where young coaches who were inexperienced, and he had a great defense. You guys played complementary football. Tom,
and our young inexperienced guys were guys named Josh McDaniels and Brian Dable. They were our young inexperienced coaches, and how did that turn out for them? And then we had Dante Scarnecchia, who's one of the greatest offensive line coaches in the history of the game, and Ivan Fears, and we had a bunch of guys, on our side and both sides of the ball that, you know, and we had a great special teams coach too. So like that's the way we played the game. I mean, we'd go into games saying, "Hey, if we score 21 in this game, we're winning." I mean, can you imagine a team today going into a game saying, "Hey, look, if we get out of the teens, we win"? I can't imagine anyone saying that anymore. That's a distant memory.
what do you think is the biggest difference today with a young quarterback that maybe is now light years ahead of what you guys dealt with, either with Tommy or any one of your stops with a young QB?
Well, if you look at the young guys, the rookies, for example, that are playing, one constant that they all have is athleticism. No, they're not just pure drop back quarterbacks. Caleb, he's athletic. Jaden, he's athletic. Drake Maye, he's athletic. Bo Nix, he's athletic. And that wasn't a game, 20 years ago. It was all drop back quarterbacks in the pocket. How many guys you'd have the occasional Michael Vick, but how many of those were there playing in the game? It was a drop back game. Now quarterback's athleticism is counted on in the development of your team. You count on, I mean, look at Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round, and he's one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game. And to this day, every game you watch, his feet are a determining factor with them winning and losing every single game.
Doug Peterson has an issue. He admitted that it's a slippery slope right now, and one of his players said he saw a lot of quit out there in their loss to the Bears. How delicate right now is the situation for Doug, and can you get back a locker room if guys are already talking about watching their teammates quit on the team?
Well, when the veteran leaders of your team don't lead the team, then you really don't have much of a chance. So you could have the strongest head coach who really puts you in position to be successful, but the veteran leaders have to take a grasp of this. And if they don't, then there's no chance. Because they're one and right now, and Houston's rolling along with only one loss. I mean, that division is already out of reach for them. Now, they're just fighting to try to stay alive. And I think it's really, really important that not only the coaching staff, but the veteran leaders all rally the troops. Because if you don't have both elements, I'm talking both elements, the coaching staff and the veteran leaders, then you got no chance.
You surprised Bill didn't get a coaching job this year?
I don't know all the idiosyncrasies of what exactly he was looking for or what they were looking for. I mean, let's face it, probably the greatest coach in our lifetime. He probably is. But you don't know the little idiosyncrasies. Like, why did he not get hired in Atlanta? I do not know that. Now, I know all the hearsay. I know what I've heard, but I'm just like you. You and I have probably heard the same things. I mean, we probably heard the same things. But, there are a bunch of jobs open, and I'd be very surprised. Even though he's looking like he's living a pretty happy life right now. If I were him, I wouldn't go back into coaching because he looks like he's pretty happy. But knowing him, even though he's in his 70s, I think he's young. He's young in his 70s, and I'd be very surprised if he isn't on the sideline somewhere next year.
But he also wants that all-times win record, right? He wants the
I,
shoe.
I would think that, I wouldn't say he's selfish, but I think that he's an NFL history buff. And although he's already created a lot of history himself, I think getting to that one, would probably be pretty important.
Final question. What's wrong with Deshaun Watson?
I was speaking before the season started to the people out in Cleveland, and they were asking me about the Browns. And I said, Deshaun Watson just can't be good. He's got to be better than good because you play in a division. And let's keep the Steelers out of this for right now. Let's just talk about the Ravens and the Bengals. Okay, the Ravens and the Bengals have two quarterbacks that are MVP caliber quarterbacks. Wouldn't you agree?
Yep.
Okay, they're both MVP caliber quarterbacks. Well, if Deshaun Watson doesn't play on that level, then Cleveland's got no chance. They got no chance. And I said that he can't just be good for Cleveland to be because the division is too competitive. You look at the Steelers are as competitive as anyone because they play the old-fashioned way. Okay, they run the ball, they play good defense, they throw it when they have to. And what was the score of their game? I think they scored 30 today, but I mean, for a good portion of the game, it was 15-9, or it was
right,
16-7, something like that. It was some low scoring game. But I mean, the Browns can't win unless they get front end quarterback play. And last year, they deserved a gold medal for winning with all those different quarterbacks, and especially with Flacco at the end. But you're even watching Flacco today. Flacco's still making enough plays for his team to win. He's even at his age, he's still making plays. Well, Deshaun Watson has to be able to carry the team, and right now, there's no evidence that he can do that.
This is such a great conversation. I could pick your brain about NFL history and schematics and quarterbacking forever. I want to thank you very much for disrupting a very quiet night for you for a few minutes with us to chat.
I have to blame Louis Gold for this one now. I mean, he nagged me for 2 weeks for me to do this, so I won't be mad at you, but I will tell Louis he owes me a chip.
Lou is my executive producer on the SiriusXM morning show, and he did me a solid by getting you on the show. And I wanted to let you know that on behalf of me, you will be receiving a bottle of Santo Blanco tequila. This is Guy Fieri and Sammy Hagar's signature tequila. It is delicious. It is smooth. It is, it's my favorite tequila out there, and I'm a tequila fan. So I will be personally sending you a bottle of Santo Blanco tequila for joining us tonight on the show.
And it will go right to my wife because I drink nothing but light beer.
Okay.
I know my limits. Okay. a couple of light beers, and that about does me right.
Well, this is for Mrs. Weis then, and next time I see you, I'll get you a case of Coors Light. Sounds good?
I'll take it.
Okay. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us. This was awesome. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Take care.
4-time Super Bowl champion Charlie Weis joining us this morning here on the show, or I should say this evening here on the show. That was really cool. And I mean, talk about a guy who's just a gem of knowledge. I mean, imagine being the guy alongside Bill Belichick to make the decision, stick with Tom Brady. Don't go back to Drew Bledsoe. We're going with Tom. I mean, that's Think about the weight of that decision in NFL history. Bledsoe goes out, and it looks like a duh now, but it was not over the course of 2001. It was not, you can't go away from the greatest quarterback of all time. It was, you don't lose your job due to injury, and Drew Bledsoe is a multi-time Pro Bowl guy who's making a ton of money and can throw it 80 yards at a dime. And the rest was history because of a guy by the name of Bill Belichick and that man, Charlie Weis, who made a decision that would alter the course of NFL history. Pretty awesome. Really, really cool. And that's this show, this Sunday night show. If you're just tuning in for the first time, you're watching us maybe on YouTube, you're watching us maybe on Twitter. We are live on both platforms. We do this every Sunday night, and we recap the day of football, but the guests have just been amazing. Through my travels, through media and sports, we have had on really great guests. Last week was NFL insider Diana Rossini, longtime ESPN reporter, now of The Athletic. We've had Ian Rappaport, NFL Network insider as well. Him and I go way back to Boston when he was covering the NFL for the Boston Herald, and I was in Boston for 98.5 The Sports Hub. We've had on Golden Tate, Super Bowl champion. We've had on Bart Scott, who I used to work with over on CBS. He's now part of ESPN's family. Go down the list. We've just had amazing guests every week. Nick Wright joined us from Fox Sports 1. And it's just been nonstop great guests and insights. So add Charlie to the list. That was awesome. I appreciate him dropping on by very, very much. All right, one more point on the Furious Five, and that is the NLCS and the ALCS. NLCS gets going tonight, and game one should be a good one. I think this entire series should be interesting between the Mets and the Dodgers. Then in the ALCS, you have the Yankees and the Guardians. I think this is such a great Final Four for baseball. Number one, you have a hated entity on both sides or a loved entity on both sides, a popular, coastal, massive brand. So you have the Yankees and the Dodgers. And probably most of America wants to see those two star-laden teams go at it for the first time since 1981 in the World Series. Feels like we've been close, but just haven't been able to get it. If you hate those teams, you have your Cinderellas. You have your New York Mets, who, when it was June 2nd, were 11 games under 500, and the sky was falling yet again. And on the AL side, you have the Guardians, who had a wonderful regular season, but have a payroll that's minuscule compared to the other three. I mean, absolutely minuscule. So you have these underdogs who are playing above either their payrolls or above what we thought their talent level or expectations were. So you have party crashers. And I just think it's awesome. So to me, go Mets, of course. Go Guardians. I hope we have a wonderful LCS on both sides. But baseball's come up with a great postseason already. Some of these games, some of these series have been just fantastic. The story of the Tigers was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The real angst between the Padres and the Dodgers down to their last breath and needing a bullpen game to save their season. The Mets, who just seem to top themselves every single game with more and more craziness. Everything has been sensational in baseball, and bravo to October because there is nothing like it. And that brings us to our laugh of the week. Okay. And, you know, we love Little Mo's laugh around here. He's always watching over us. He's a young man that listened to my show for many years and called the show, and we just love him around here. And the Little Mo laugh of the day, it was always so mesmerizing. It was so captivating when he would laugh. I got to bring up my dad, Papa Amendo, because I really feel like Little Mo is laughing upstairs at Papa Amendo, or if I played this for him on the show, he would be laughing alongside all of us. My dad, I took him to game 3 of the NLDS the other day when the Mets beat the Phillies, and there was one lonely Phillies fan in my section, in my row. And he was an older guy, and my dad's an older guy, and I just said, I ain't dealing with this guy this entire day. Dad, you got it. So I put my dad next to him, and And I knew old guy, they could handle one another. So early in the game, when the Phillies were striking out the Mets and getting some big outs, Philly fan would send him go, sit down to the Mets. And this drew the ire of many people in my section. A lot of crossed looks, a lot of young bucks walking by going, long night, bro. Long night. It's going to be a long night for you. There's a lot of game left. But it took my dad to fight fire with fire, because as the Mets launched on their side of things and had a couple of big hits, a couple of home runs that put them in the lead, my dad began getting up and saying, sit down, every time the Mets would have a highlight or specifically strike out the Phillies, to the point where the section would wait for my dad to say, sit down, and then chanted alongside him. My dad then added, sit your ass down, when there was a really big play, and ultimately when the Mets won the game. And so watching my dad in his 70s now turn around and glare at the guy next to him, sit your ass down. I was proud. I was a proud son. We also got caught on the Fox TV cameras. You might have seen this on my social media feeds. It's at Damon Amendolara on either Twitter or on Instagram. And as the Fox camera panned us after a home run for the Mets, I'm cheering. I'm holding my bottle of beer, my can of beer, and I'm pointing at the camera. Yeah, go Mets. And my dad just starts laughing and pointing at the Philly fan next to him, laughing in his face. Classic Papa Amendo. Always the class clown. So I thought that was a good laugh, and I think that little Mo would enjoy that quite a bit. I got a couple of minutes for a little Q&A, guys. So why don't we do this as I throw to you guys on the chats, all right? We go to Sean the Iron Man. The Jags will be permanently in London in 2 years. America doesn't even want them. This Jags team today absolutely quit on their head coach. There's no doubt about it. It's a pathetic showing by them. They're talking about quitting inside that locker room, and that's when you know you have a real problem, because if they're talking openly about quitting and it's only mid-October, it ain't going to get better. Moist Pork says, come on, DA. We had a deal. Don't talk about the Browns. I know. I broke our trust. I broke our deal there, Moist Pork. But I had to just ask Charlie Weis about Deshaun Watson. I mean, you want to hear what he has to say, right? Don't you? Randy says, Charlie knows. He knows football. He sure does. He knows football, and that was a pretty awesome conversation. I will take the entirety of that conversation and post it on YouTube. So if you just want to listen to that, if maybe you tuned in late, maybe you want to share it with somebody, it will be up on YouTube tonight. Take a look for it on this channel. How about the Lions and Cowboys final? As Donna Jean says, that's a scorigami, a score that has never happened in NFL history. 47-9 is a. I did not know that was scorigami. So that's pretty cool. First time that score has ever been tallied. Isn't that weird? That does not seem like such an odd score. The first ever 47-9. Very nice. Raider, the Bandit Invader. Who else saw that Steelers home game in Vegas? I called it on Friday when I made the picks, and then today as well. Friday, I do my show on Sirius XM, Channel 82, the DA show with the Babchick. We made our picks. The Steelers were one of my picks, minus the 3. I think it was maybe minus 3.5. And I said, look, this is going to be a Steelers home game, because everybody in Western PA is like, let's go to Vegas. And, the Raiders fan today has been beaten down, and they're going to go watch Aiden O'Connell. No thanks. And so you knew there was going to be terrible towels all over the place. And it was. My other play earlier was Commanders plus the 7. They lost by 7, so that is a push. So at the moment, I'm 1-0-1 going into tonight. I have the Giants plus the 3.5. Here is FSU 18. Can't run an NFL-style offense. Bill O'Brien said himself he had to run the same offense as Clemson. It's interesting in terms of NFL coaches going to college like Charlie did. Charlie obviously did not have a lot of success at the end in Notre Dame and then at KU as well. However, his early stops or his early years at Notre Dame, 9 wins and 10 wins. So people kind of forget that as a head coach, Charlie's early results at Notre Dame were really, really good. I mean, 10 wins at Notre Dame Nothing to sneeze at considering how good their schedule usually is. So that was really cool to have Charlie here on the show. And as Wallace tweets, in firing McCarthy now would mean Jerry would have to admit he was wrong. You think that's happening? And the answer is no, I don't think so. I think that at this point in time, you're going to see McCarthy finish out this season, and it's going to end up going nowhere. I think we've seen what we needed to see out of the Cowboys, and not much is going to change. Jerry will excuse away this one by saying we have injuries, we got to play better. I expect us to play better. But in terms of itchy trigger finger and firing guys midseason, we had Ian Rappaport join us from NFL Network 2 weeks ago, and he said, I don't think he's going to fire McCarthy midseason. After the season, sure, that's on the table, but midseason, he does not see that happening. As Nick writes in, good day of football. Now I'm ready to watch some playoff baseball. We had a great day of college football yesterday. Really elite college football day. And now we have some playoff baseball to watch and Sunday night football. So there you go. Hey, this was a lot of fun, everybody. Thanks for joining me here on the show. It was a bit of a stripped-down version of the program because Aiden Hatton, the Marquette Marvel, was not with us. He's at a wedding tonight. And so I said, don't worry. I got you, bro. I can do this. I can fly solo. So we're going to land the plane right now. But we did it. An hour in the books, and that was awesome. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click on the button below me. Make sure you tell your friends to subscribe as well. And make sure you're watching throughout the week for clips from this show or DA deep dives as we just cycle through. I have a conversation right now up on YouTube with Dennis Denninger. He spent 25 years as an NFL and sports television executive with ESPN. He says, watch for an announcement of a team in London for the NFL in the next year to 18 months. Wow. So check out that interview that's on the YouTube channel. That clip, just that interview is available, but that clip is also available on this channel. Look for that. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow morning on Sirius XM. And as we say on this Sunday Pig Pile, oink, oink.